We welcome the Vice President of Electric Operations at Consumers Energy, Chris Laird. Hey Chris, good to see you.
Good afternoon, Bart. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Good. We've talked to Chris before during the pandemic via Zoom, and we've had some crazy summers, but this summer we've just had a lot of rain. It doesn't seem like we've had a lot of storm events to cause a lot of power outages.
Yeah, the weather pattern's definitely changing. We've still seen quite a bit of activity. The joy of consumers is we have customers in all 68 counties in the Lower Peninsula. So while it may not be as much here, other parts of the state are seeing quite a bit of it. So we're always prepared to deal with that.
Yeah, particularly along the area where you live, the West Michigan shoreline. I think even that big rain event that we had a couple of weeks ago, that was also a big wind event for that part of the state.
Yeah, the Muskegon area had 76 mile an hour shear winds coming off the lake and did some pretty bad devastation to the communities up there in Whitehall, Montague area.
So are we actually seeing the weather pattern change as a result of the planet warming?
Yeah, we've seen increased winds over the past 3 years. So there's definitely something that's changing that for us. We've seen more tornadoes this year in the state of Michigan than we have historically as well. So all that's directly correlated for sure.
Yeah, and that rain that some people are calling, the 100-year rainfall, we shouldn't see it, for another 100 years, but chances are it's going to be a lot sooner than that.
Yeah, I believe so too. And the rain's good for us. It helps everything grow. It's nice and green, and it keeps down risk of wildfire and other items that we have to battle in the state. But it causes other issues for us for sure.
And surprises a lot of people that you've made a real bold commitment to be more reliable even when the wind is causing more electric failure events.
Yeah, that's true. So 3 years ago, we announced our reliability roadmap, and that's a 10-year strategy in order to have 3 big stands for us. And 2 of those are no more than 100,000 customers out given any event, and all customers restored in 24 hours. And ever since we made that promise on behalf of our customers, we track every single event, we problem solve, and do everything we can to get better every single time.
So we know why the power's going out. It's the trees taking down the lines, right?
Yeah, that's our number one cause. Over a third of our outages are due to trees.
So we don't want to get rid of all our trees. We can't bury the lines underground. And why can't we?
We can in some spaces. I think we have to be selective of where we can do that, but there's just areas it's not feasible to do that based on cost factors.
So what we need to do then is separate the trees from the lines. How do you do that?
Yeah, so we have an aggressive strategy. We're in year 3 of trimming over 7,000 miles of line every single year. For a frame of reference, if you drive from Kalamazoo to Detroit every other week, that's how many miles of lines we're going to trim every week of the year throughout the course of the year.
Really?
So
wow.
We've got 253 contractors working for us on the system right now all across the state, and they're working their tails off to get those trees trimmed. We do follow arborvitae standards, so we make sure that we go through and trim the trees on a healthy standpoint. And our foresters are very, very astute at being able to work through those challenges.
So we've seen the giant transmission towers and lines that it's a big valley you create. There's nothing on either side for yards and yards.
Yep.
You can't do that with typically street side utility lines, can you?
So we have different trim standards on our big transmission lines. Our right-of-ways are quite a bit bigger, and we do a practice called ground to sky trimming, and that's to keep everything away from it. As you get into residential distribution, the community, you try to work through the beautification of a community and trim those trees from a healthy standpoint, but keep them back at least 15 feet away from our lines so that we minimize the amount of interruptions that we have from them.
We're all seeing what's happening in Northern California right now, the forest fires, and really they could happen anywhere. They could happen here.
Yeah.
You must look at that as being a risk to as a cause of fire, but also as an interrupter of electricity.
Yeah, both. So we have a team here at Consumers that's dedicated just to look at the wildfire strategy. We just launched our first plan with that. People don't think of Michigan as a wildfire state, but we've had two of the biggest 10 fires in the history of the country in Michigan, both of them pre-1900. But one of those, when the Great Chicago Fire happened, came into southwest Michigan, another one over in the Thumb area. So we do work with FEMA, the Michigan DNR to look at those areas, and we use that in our calculation to figure out where we're going to trim first.
So who does the tree trimming? Do you have your own people, or do you have tree contractors?
We have several different contractors from within the state of Michigan that does the core of our maintenance trimming for us. Emergent trimming can be done by our line resources, our guys and gals in the blue and white bucket trucks.
So with all the trimming that you are doing, it sounds very aggressive. Are you seeing some solid results?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, year one when we went through, the areas that had seen a lot of interruptions are seeing very, very minimal, if any at all. And when we get through this first round of 7-year trim cycle, we expect to see a big, big improvement. And then we'll start right back over again. And every time we go through, it gets better and better.
Yeah, because trees, they don't stop growing.
Correct. And we use technology to look at what kind of tree it is, what's the growth pattern based off soil density, the rain that comes in, and then we target that specifically with how soon we get back out and trim those trees.
I think with the rains that we had earlier this month, the ground became so saturated that a lot of trees just toppled over without any wind or anything.
Yeah, they become really heavy when they get all that moisture in them, and then the root structure, when it's not good or in sandy soil, the winds will blow those over for sure.
Do residents have any responsibility when it comes to keeping their trees trimmed?
We'll trim the trees that are out on the primary lines, and we'll come and work with them. If they have questions, they can always call us at 1-800-477-5050 or go to our website, consumersenergy.com/forestry. We'll get them in touch with a representative to walk through that. I would stay away from the lines. If I can give a safety message, stay away from lines, stay away from trees that are in contact with lines, call us and we'll make sure we get somebody out.
So to reach the goal of your reliability roadmap, it's not just tree trimming. And you can't bury lines everywhere. So what other things are you guys doing?
Yeah, we are going to bury some lines strategically around the state where we know that we can get in, the soil's good for it, they're in areas we can do it at a cost-effective standpoint. But we've also brought in new ductile iron poles, so bigger and beefier poles, and we'll put those in select locations. We've changed the size and standard of our wood poles and the conductor. We're putting what we call tree wire, which is wire that has a coating on the outside of it, so if a limb touches it, it doesn't cause an interruption for us. And then we're using all kinds of new technology. We call them ATR loops, so power's fed from two directions, and if it senses power's out in one way, it feeds it the other and picks it back up with customers not even noticing the interruption.
Remember years ago, in the early days of the internet, there was talk about the internet delivering electricity?
Haven't seen that come to fruition just yet, no.
Probably not going to happen.
I would hope not.
There is a fable that it's cheaper for you to go out and fix the lines than it is to put in the time in advance of a storm to prevent them from coming down in the first place.
Not true. So we actually save 40% by doing the work ahead of time. So we're inspecting our miles of lines. We have about 95,000 miles of line, enough to go around the earth almost 4 times. And we go out and inspect those lines every other year. So we get out, we identify potential future failures, and then we have a whole strategy with our work plan to go out and take care of those before an outage occurs, when our resources aren't on overtime and harsh conditions to restore that.
So along the West Michigan coast, we're seeing like increases in wind speed. What other things are you seeing there that's maybe alarming to you as an electric provider?
Yeah, I think from a forestry standpoint, we've got some new things going on. We had the emerald ash borer for a long time, so in the lakeshore areas, they have a lot of ash trees that are out there. We're seeing oak wilt, so big, strong trees are prematurely failing. They're falling on our lines, even those outside of right-of-way that can fall and touch our lines that initially we don't trim going through because they look healthy on the outside. Those are falling, getting to our lines. So those are two of the bigger risks we're looking at from a forestry standpoint. But then as climate changes in the winter, snow doesn't really do a lot of damage to our system, but ice can be devastating to our system. So just watching those temps and trying to make sure that all this new stronger poles, steel poles, tree wire, bigger, beefier conductor, all that is built to withstand increased levels of ice.
Yeah, so are we doing that? Are we switching? If you think about wood poles, it seems kind of, I mean, that's 100-year-old technology.
Yeah, we're actually doing that right now. We're changing it out, and we have this awesome training facility in Marshall, Michigan. So we test all of our new products there, create all the standards, make sure that we've got all the training associated, and we're deploying it. So we have iron poles in 3 communities right now. We're going to continue to expand that across the state.
That makes a difference.
Makes a big difference
Yeah.
for us, yep.
Because the trees, I mean, the poles are made out of trees, and they're going to snap as well as
Yeah.
easily as a tree.
So the iron poles stay up, the wire would be the piece that comes down, and that's easier for us to pull it out, put it back up in the air.
And do you know where the power is out? Do you know where, like, you've got lines running through, forests where there aren't people for miles?
Yeah, we have, so we can use our smart meters to be able to tell us where outages are. We also have line sensors out in the system, so it'll tell us if there's a fault. The crews can go out and go directly to that line section to get it on. And we continue to use increased technology to automate the system and know right away when there's issues happening.
So your dream is someday that people won't know what a power failure is.
Correct.
Wow. All right, sounds like you're making great progress.
We're working hard for our customers to do so.
Well, we appreciate it. We like the lights on
Us too.
and the air conditioning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Today especially.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks, Bart. Appreciate it.
Chris Laird is Vice President of Electric Operations at Consumers Energy.